Terence Crawford says he may not want a rematch with Errol Spence Jr. after July the 29th. What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Cardinal Red Sports. Let's talk about it. Alright, y'all. So, the big homie Terence Bud Crawford, we all know he has a undisputed super fight coming up here really soon with Errol, the Truth Spence Jr. And I think what everybody has been wondering, other than who's going to win this fight, is there going to be a rematch? Now, there is a rematch clause written into the contract for the loser. Either one can activate it. But Terence Bud Crawford says he doesn't know if he would actually want to activate that rematch clause. Is that a sign of early retirement? You know, is that a sign that someone knows that they're going to lose? Or is that a sign saying that I'm preparing myself to move to 154 pounds?
You had the Sugar Ray Robinson era. You had the Ali era. The Marvin Hagler, the Tommy Hearns. You even had the Floyd Mayweather, his era. But July 29th, I'm going to show each and every one of y'all why. This era is the Terence Crawford era.
I just want to get my 2 cents and break it down for whoever is listening. Alright, y'all. So, why would Terence Crawford say that, you know, ahead of such a big fight, you know, the biggest fight of your career, probably the most money you've ever made in a fight, more than likely the most eyeballs you've ever had on one of your fights. You're obviously not the most popular guy when it comes to welterweight fighters, but you are a champion, been a champion for a long time. Why would somebody of that caliber say that they would not activate a rematch clause that's already been written, that you advocated for months and months and months into the contract? Why would you say that you might not activate that? You know, I think there's a lot of ways you can go with that, what he had to say. But me personally, I think that it's a sign of 2 things. Either he's thinking about retirement or he's thinking about moving to 154. So if he's thinking about retirement, then he's just trying to cover his bases. Like, hey, if I lose, more than likely I'm going to get beat half to death. Why would I want to go through that twice, you know, just to get beat again? And, you know, for some money, I'm already rich. You know, I really don't need any money. Why would I want to go through that twice? So, you know, if you're going with that school of thought to where he already has it in his head that, hey, if I get beat halfway to death, I'm going to retire. I'm not pursuing any more rematches. I'm not trying to go after anybody else. I'm just going to leave it where it's at. You know, me personally, I think if it does play out like that, his legacy is going to be greatly tarnished. His legacy is not going to be what it should have been, especially if these 2 guys would have fought 2 or 3 years ago. You know, I think if he gets beat badly and doesn't activate that rematch clause, there's no hope of the future for Terence Crawford.
We did have a side bet, but, you know, to be 100% honest, I gave him that when we was in negotiations to make the fight happen.
His future is basically retirement. You know, if he gets knocked out, even if he just loses on the scorecards and loses every round, I think that's still like an embarrassing type of situation. So that might be enough to force him to say, you know what, I don't need to do this anymore. You know, I've done everything I can at welterweight. Obviously, I'm not built to go up to 154 pounds because I couldn't even beat a weight-drained Errol Spence at 147 pounds. So why even put myself through that? You know, I can see that playing out that way. Will it play out that way? You know, for Terence Crawford and his fans, I hope not. I hope he puts up a great fight. And, you know, I'm still looking for him to lose the fight. But I hope he puts up a good enough fight to where we can see Terence Crawford 1 or 2 more times in a boxing ring. Personally, I would love to see Terence Crawford take on Manny Pacquiao, even though it's like 5 years overdue. I think, you know, since Manny Pacquiao wants to make a comeback, I would love to see him get in there with some of these guys, even if they've taken a loss. You know, the loss really means nothing when you're fighting a legend. You know, it's just about, you know, status at that point. You know, can I beat this guy even at his old age? You know, I probably couldn't have beat him at his prime, but even at this age, with him being such a credible or formal opponent, you know, look what he did to Keith, Broner, all these other guys, and having a decent enough showing against guys, I would love to see Crawford and Manny Pacquiao get it on. Now, the other situation would be him moving to 154 pounds, and the only way I see that happening is if everything plays out in Terence Crawford's favor. And what I mean by that, well, he's got to win this fight for him to get to 154 pounds. You know, the funny thing about all this is one of these guys I think is going to disappear after this fight.
My bad for snitching on you, snitching on you. Snitching on you, snitching on you.
I don't think one of these guys is going to be as relevant as they was, you know, before the fight, you know, for the past year or so. And I kind of blame it on them, you know, because they roll with the whole old culture, the whole, I'm not that popular if I don't have let me fight these fights that I know I can win and pad up my stats, you know, and pad my record, you know. So once you get to those situations where the old must go, and, you know, people are going to treat you very, very differently after your O is gone, you can't do nothing but blame it on the person to put themselves in that situation. So there is a lot on the line with this fight. It might not be as highly anticipated as something like Maypac. You know, that was a highly, highly, highly anticipated fight, and both of those guys were, you know, the pinnacle of boxing. But there's a lot on the line in this fight. Whoever loses is most likely going to disappear.
A lot of motherfuckers ain't going to make it because you know why? They ain't going to listen. They going to leave. You're not built to win.
Whoever loses is most likely going to get treated different. Whoever loses most likely will be the first to go into retirement. Whoever loses is most likely not going to be the same fighter in 2024. So a lot on the line. Not only that, you know, undisputed, all these titles. And most likely one of these guys is going to leave the division. You know, they're no longer, or both of them most likely are going to leave the division. One of them most likely will retire, but one of these guys is not going to be around after they win the fight and move up. You know, whether it's Errol going to 160 or Terence going to 154. You know, 147 is not going to look the same in 2024 and at the end of 2023. So I think there's a lot on the line in this fight. You know, when it comes to Terence at 154, everything has to go in his favor. He's going to have to pitch a shutout to get to 154. He's going to have to beat Errol Spence to get to 154. He's going to have to do it in stellar fashion to get to 154. The thing about it is, if he beats Errol Spence is going to activate the rematch clause. That's the difference between these two guys. I think Earl's a lot more confident in himself and his future, you know, whether it's having to fight Terence again at 147 or getting to move up and weight. You know, a lot rides on this fight. Believe me, if Errol Spence loses, PBC and Errol Spence are activating their rematch clause.
Don't never become no gangster. Always gotta have niggas with you. Always gotta be trying to protect yourself, looking over your shoulder.
Now, depending on how Terence Crawford loses, if he at least gives a decent enough showing to where, you know, some people thought he won, most people think he lost, but there's room for a rematch, I think then he'll activate the rematch. But if he takes a beating, if he gets knocked out, if he gets beat on for 12 rounds, then more than likely he's going into retirement. And I don't expect to see Terence Crawford at 154, so I don't even think it's going to matter at that point. The only way he gets there is to pitch a shutout. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all that down in the comment section below. That like button, fun man, share. Subscribe. Holler at me on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. More than likely to get a response on the tube, so holler at me over there. If you want to collab or feature a product on the channel, hit my Gmail, and it is a flock of cards at gmail.com. And we are live.
You outside on the block, You get into it with a cop, he run up on you with his hand on his Glock. You still talking shit, better stop before you get popped. Another thing you shouldn't do is be in the club solo, acting ruthless. Leave out that motherfucker toothless. Shit, niggas don't play. Drama pop off and a nigga don't say. Cause you get the snitching, you get split that way. Motherfuckers are sick out in the K. Why? L-O-U, don't try. Don't do it, just move it before you lose it. Right off in your Buick. Young Lewis, Young Lewis. Spotless records, nigga. Don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, nigga. Don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, nigga. Don't dig it wet, fuck dig it wet. Player, don't do that shit. Don't dig it wet, player, don't do that shit. Don't dig it wet, player, don't do that shit. Don't dig it wet, player, don't do that shit. Fuck. Another thing you shouldn't do is spend big bread on a new crib. Meet a little dime, let her move in. Have her in your new car cruising. Gotta be smarter than that. Shit, she probably a rat. When you gone to work, she's home with a jerk. Jerking them, slurping them, twerking them. Then you coming home and you murking them. Now hard years, that nigga serving them. Still got her at your crib, taking care of your shit. Now ain't that a bitch? Another thing you don't do, hate on the click when we come through. S&R, that's how it goes. Slide off with his hoes. Don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, don't dig it wet, nigga. Don't dig it wet, don't